Hey guys, over January and February so far, I saw a few movies, but I do not have enough to say about these ones in particular to give them full reviews, so I'm just kind of jam-packing them into one video. The first movie I want to talk about is Just Mercy, which was good. For me, this movie's biggest strength was the acting. Michael B. Jordan and Brie Larson were both great, and Jamie Foxx's performance in this movie is genuinely award-worthy. The script was great, even though there were some scenes in the film that were very badly written. Easily the best aspect to the script was the dialogue, which all sounded very natural. I also really loved how the movie used its tone. The cinematography was decent and there were some great shots scattered throughout, but it wasn't anything special overall. A lot of the editing and music choices were very distracting. For most of the movie, it really felt like it was set in the 90s, but then there are multiple scenes where Michael B. Jordan goes out for a morning jog and it always looks like a modern day Gap commercial. Anyways, I really do not have anything else to say about this movie at all. You are now probably beginning to see why I am not giving the movies in this video full reviews. This movie was really well written and had some absolutely devastating sequences and some amazing performances, and I think you should watch it. And I'm giving Just Mercy a 7 out of 10. I think it's closer to a 6 than an 8, but I'm giving a 7. Next up, I saw Like a Boss. Yay! Just from the trailers, I kinda expected this one to be a piece of shit, but I was at least hoping Tiffany Haddish would be funny enough to save it for me. The film does deliver on Tiffany Haddish being the best part, but none of the jokes she has are funny at all. And I don't blame her for this, cause there was legitimately only one joke in the entire movie that I found funny. So you already have an 83-minute long comedy that is unbearably unfunny, but the fact that the joke that is funny is in the first 10 minutes just makes the rest of the experience so much more of a chore to sit through. Speaking of that runtime, it is not justified at all. If you removed a lot of the unnecessary padding in some of the comedy scenes and you removed the end credits, then this movie would not even be an hour long. It honestly feels like a fucking TV movie. The script is stale, predictable, and boring. The overall story of the film feels like it should have been in a movie that came out in 2009, but for some reason we're getting it in fucking 2020. Nothing about the presentation stands out at all, and the whole film just looks really bland. The vast majority of the acting is terrible. Rose Byrne did a really bad job despite having proven many times in the past that she is really good with comedy. Selma Hayek, despite clearly having a lot of fun with this role, just did not fit it at all. Tiffany Haddish easily gave the best performance in the movie despite having absolutely nothing to work with. Billy Porter was fine, I guess. To be fair, even if every performance in this movie was the best thing ever, I don't think it would really help considering every character is the most unlikable asshole ever created. For most of the movie, I was just wondering why the two protagonists were even friends considering they are constantly assholes to each other. Nobody acts like a real human being. Every character in this movie acts as unrealistically as possible just to further the plot. This movie also has some of the worst music usage I've ever seen. It's not even that the music they're using is all terrible, although some of it is really terrible. But whenever they use a great song, they clearly manage to demonstrate that they have no idea what makes the song great. For example, one of the first songs that's used in the film is Worship by Lizzo, which is very notable for a motif that is used many times throughout the song, including the very end of the song.
Worship me.
That motif is one of the main reasons the song is so iconic, but when this film uses it, they cut it before the motif, and it sounds really audibly unsatisfying. To anyone who actually knows the song, it just sounds so bad when it's used in the film. The movie's musical score was really overdramatic and overbearing. The movie's time structure was also really weird. Most of the movie has a day-to-day structure, but then at one point I'm presuming they cut a couple weeks. Because if this movie keeps its day-to-day structure, then that means Tiffany Haddish's character perfectly cut and dyed her hair in the space of a couple of hours. Anyways, I don't think I have to tell you not to see this movie because it's gotten pretty awful reviews across the board, but just in case, don't see this movie. This movie is atrocious and I'm genuinely shocked that it was released into cinemas in the year 2020. And I'm giving Like a Boss a 2 out of 10. Next up, I saw Dolittle, and I think you know where this one's going. I am genuinely shocked that $175 million went into this film. I mean, yeah, the cast is stacked, so I'm presuming a lot of it went into paychecks, but at the same time, the visual effects in this movie are very clearly expensive. expensive, which is a shame because not a single one of them was convincing whatsoever. When a movie relies this heavily on visual effects and the visual effects look fake, it can really deteriorate the quality of the rest of the film. This film would be bad regardless of the visual effects, but with the better visual effects this could have at least been bearable. But constantly the film just looks so ugly, and that's not even limited to the visual effects because the whole film is just so poorly framed. I am now learning that the cinematographer for this movie was also the cinematographer for Jackie Brown and Pan's Labyrinth. What? Jackie Brown is by no means Tarantino's best movie, but it is easily one of the most memorable when it comes to the cinematography. The usage of framing and color is very purposeful. I've only seen the movie once, but there are entire sequences I can remember based off of the visuals alone. Pan's Labyrinth literally won the Oscar for Best Cinematography, and watching it, it's so easy to see why. The film balances tones of being unsettling and beautiful at the same time very well, and it largely does this through how it's shot. What you're seeing is amazing, but the way you're shown it is so tense and frightening. The Pale Man sequence is not just iconic because he puts his hands over his eyes. It's because of the way the music and the cinematography are used to make the scene terrifying. How did the cinematographer go from knowing exactly what they were doing to not having a clue what they were doing? Nearly all of the acting was atrocious despite the very talented actors in the cast. You've definitely heard about how bad Robert Downey Jr. is in this movie, but I think that's beginning to overshadow just how terrible the other protagonist in this film is. Because, ooh boy, the child acting in this movie is not good. All of the voice acting was pretty atrocious. If you want to hear Tom Holland say the line "looks like someone's been a bad boy as a dog and oddly sensually for some reason," then I guess this is the film for you. Jessie Buckley was the only person in the entire movie who actually gave a convincing performance, and even then she's only in it for 5 minutes at the end. The story of the film also made zero fucking sense. At one point Dolittle and his crew are in danger, so they call on some whales to help their ship go faster. I don't know, considering you're on an urgent mission to save someone from dying who's already in a coma and is very close to death, you think you would have wanted to do that from the get-go? Are you not in a hurry? Also, if you remove the human antagonist from this movie as soon as the main characters go on a voyage, the plot literally doesn't change. What was the point in having him go after them if he doesn't actually add anything to the story whatsoever? The plot would have played out the exact same regardless. The editing sucked, the music was bad, none of the characters were interesting. There were lots of attempts at humor, but none of them were funny. Everything felt fake and I didn't care about anything that was happening. There was a very short but very nicely animated sequence at the very start of the film, but excluding that and Jessie Buckley's performance, this film has nothing good to offer. This movie was overall pretty boring and pretty bad, and I did not have a good time watching it. And I'm giving Dolittle a 1 out of 10. And the final movie I'm going to cover in this video is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, and it's so refreshing to talk about a movie I liked. Now for context, I really hated Suicide Squad. It's an embarrassment of a movie with little to none redeeming qualities, so obviously when I found out this movie was being made, I was not excited. However, the trailers really piqued my interest, and as the film started getting closer, I got more and more interested. So when I went to see the film on opening night, I was very cautiously optimistic. And thankfully, this film didn't disappoint me. For a start, Margot Robbie's performance in this movie is much better than it was in Suicide Squad. She fit the character very well and overall did a great job. The cast was overall pretty great, with my favorites being Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Ella J. Basco. The characters were mostly likable and fun to watch. The film was far better shot than the majority of comic book movies right now. Most of the music was used really well, and I really liked the songs that were made for the movie. Yes, I rapped along to Diamonds in the end credits. What are you gonna do, sue me? The action was all lots of fun, the comedy was really funny. I enjoyed the movie's style for the most part, even if some of the editing choices were really obnoxious. The story was fun to watch and entertaining, although there was no real tension in it. There's no point during this movie where you're really worried about any of the characters, but at the same time it does not deteriorate from the experience that much. What did deteriorate from the experience was Black Mask. Ewan McGregor's performance in this movie was fine, I guess, but Jesus Christ, the character of Black Mask in this movie is so uninteresting. There are scenes where they want him to be funny, and he isn't funny, and there are scenes where they want him to be scary and intimidating, and he is neither. He is just not an interesting villain at all, and the film relies way too heavily on him at points. The film had great production design and costume design. I enjoyed the tone for the most part, and I really liked how self-aware the film was at points. Overall, this was a really good movie, and it's easily my favorite film to come out of the DCEU so far, although that isn't exactly hard. From here on out, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Cafe Yan, because I'm really interested to see what she does after this. Anyways, check this movie out if you haven't already. It's really, really good, and I had a lot of fun with it. And I'm giving Birds of Prey an 8 out of 10. That's all the films I'm covering in this video. Stay tuned for some other content coming up soon. That's the end of this video. Like, share, subscribe, and bad at outros, and I'll see you in whatever I do next.